So some of you will note that not only have you not seen me for a while, but that in my last video my face was eerily absent. Now there was a reason for this, and no, it wasn't that I was hideously disfigured. This is just my normal face, okay? It was just that this room that I work and record in was in a state of horrific disorder. And guys, like, I mean, it was bad. I can't even show you. I swear the video would get demonetized. This was really not good for my creativity or productivity, but it was worse for my language learning. The reason that I hadn't cleaned it was that I did have a plan for 2022 of moving the whole setup, office, filming space, everything into the garage and creating the perfect all-in-one space for movie watching, working, language learning, music listening, music playing, exercising, all the things that I like/need to do. But eventually I realized that this wouldn't work for a whole host of reasons that I won't bore you with, and what I really needed to do was to make this room into a space that could facilitate the very few activities that take up almost all of the time that I spend in here. Now, one of these activities is of course language learning, and I'm pretty happy with the space as it is now for that particular activity, and I want to share it with you because most of it is pretty simple to do yourself and should work in smaller spaces too, so maybe you can get some ideas for how to set up your space for language learning. This video was originally a vlog about all the things the room has been set up for, so if you happen to be interested, you can check that out on Patreon. It's already there, but if not, that's cool, just stick around. I've got an excellent tip particularly for reading towards the end. There are 3 features of this office that are specifically geared towards language learning, and the first is tidiness. In a way, I don't like making this point because I think it's a little bit belabored on YouTube by Matt D'Avella and company.
At least for all these YouTubers who've already made it, it's like your life is already kind of built out and pretty cool. You have the opportunity to spend your free time doing whatever the hell you want.
And I'm a naturally untidy person. I think it actually has some advantages in short bursts, but when it goes unchecked for several weeks or even months, it becomes a mental burden. I can't move it because I've got to record another video, but I can't clean that up because it's sitting under this. It would just get in the way of itself, and that would create a hole in my bucket situation. Imagine turning up to an office job and starting the day with a 1-hour session of all your bosses telling you all the problems that you will one day come up against, but none of which are actually today's problem. That's kind of the best analogy I can come up with for trying to learn in an untidy space. You can still do it, you can still get stuff done, but all your subconscious is taken up turning over this problem that's not actually today's problem and can't really be solved by the subconscious anyway. Like I said, I don't love stating this because everyone's heard it before, but just take it from a messy person. There is really something to tidying up. There's something to be said for it. But then the other question is how? To cover this very quickly, 1, having less stuff, obviously. If you find it very hard to give stuff away and it's not really worth anything to anyone else so you can't sell it, then at the very, very least, get it out of your language learning space. I mean, preferably get rid of it entirely, but at least stash it away somewhere. The second one I came up with myself, and if I may say so, which I may because it's my video, I think it's pretty clever. Stop trying to find the perfect place for everything and then trying to keep everything in that place. The reason that order descends into chaos so quickly is that you use 3 things and you're in the middle of doing something that is more important than just being tidy, so you don't put them back. Do that twice a day for a week, and now there's 40 things spread randomly across your room. Now, conventional wisdom says,
a place for everything and everything in its place.
Conventional wisdom says a lot of stupid things, and that is one of them. If we, the untidy people, were actually able to do that, then we wouldn't need to have this conversation, would we? So I say, get a box as big as you need, and anything that doesn't have a really logical permanent spot or just comes and goes in your activities and you don't know when you'll next need, chuck it in the box.
Yeah, but that doesn't fix the real problem because now all the mess is just in a box.
Shut up, okay? That's contradictory. Mess that isn't on my floor, that isn't in my way mentally or physically, by definition, is not mess. Yeah, it is a box full of random crap now. I understand that that isn't perfect, but it's the pursuit of perfection that got us here in the first place. Random crap in a box is way easier to deal with than random crap on the floor or the desk or the sofa, and I would even go so far as to say easier to deal with than random crap in drawers or on shelves. It may be an early call, but so far I've managed to keep this room tidier for longer than it ever has been before, and it took a cardboard box. Since I tidied up, I felt almost no resistance to any task that would normally make me feel resistance, like doing my Anki reps, reading, writing, replying to potential sponsors. No, this video is not sponsored, but I kind of wish it were because that would have been an awesome segue. So the video is not sponsored, but I did get word from Speakly, which is in my opinion the best language learning app currently out there, that they've done a ton of work to fix some stability and speed issues that people were having. I never had these issues anyway, but I know that a lot of people did. And yeah, I've been informed that they've just done a ton of work on it, basically rebuilding a whole bunch of it to make it faster and more reliable. If you want to see if it's a good fit for you, check out the codes in the description. There's no payment up front or anything like that. Those codes will just give you an awesome discount if you do end up going premium. The second way that the room is optimized for language learning is in the layout of the computer monitor and the speakers. The monitor now faces more into the free space of the room, which means that I can exercise while, say, watching the Swedish news or just a series that I'm not that keen on, something that I don't want to give one-to-one time to, which is really handy at this stage because my motivation to just sit and get another, say, 2,000 hours raw exposure to Swedish is not very high, but if I do want to get better from here, one of the things that I need is just a lot more exposure. The speakers thing is a little bit more complicated because I'm a bit of a hi-fi nerd and I just love experimenting with different headphones and amps and speakers, and particularly seeing what I can find on the side of the road in those departments. But I recently acquired my first set of active speakers, which are not something you're going to find on the side of the road. Well, not yet anyway. And they're one of those things that I've gotten and thought, why didn't I do this 2 years ago? Active speakers are those which have amplification built in, so they don't require wiring to a separate receiver. But in my case, and the majority of cases, they also have Bluetooth, and that makes them really handy. A year ago, when I read and listened to 10 Swedish books in a single month, for a lot of that time I was just walking around this office, either with my little Bluetooth headphones in or with a little Bluetooth speaker charged, and that worked fine, that was totally okay. But decent sized speakers like these ones are much clearer, much louder if I should need that. They're always charged because they're powered, and the big advantage is that they're already in here, like I don't need a separate item. I'm going to do the mix for this video on the same speakers. Now I know that for a lot of people I'm probably just describing a very normal thing like, dude, it's not 2007, speakers have Bluetooth now. Yes, okay, I knew that active Bluetooth speakers were a thing, but I just hadn't considered how much more convenient that was, particularly for language learning stuff. So for yourself, have a think about if there's an activity that you would like to do more of, and if there's something very simple that you could change that would just make that easier. And that brings us to the last feature of this office and my favorite, which is the most bitchin' reading light you've ever laid eyes on. Most lights that you use to read are going to have one of a few different problems. Either they're small and sit very close to what you're reading, meaning that you don't have much choices to the angle on which you read, because you can tilt the page into shadow, or the light itself can get between you and what you're reading. It generally works, but it can just be a little bit annoying. But that's what we think of when we think of reading lights. And the other main option is either a normal lamp or a ceiling light, and the problem then is that if it's in front of you, it can get in your eyes, and if it's behind you or directly above you, then you cast a shadow on whatever you're trying to read. Enter the Lamont Soft Page 22, the first reading light in the world to be mounted on a microphone stand. Photography softboxes and umbrellas were made to solve a very similar problem to the one I just described. They spread out the surface of the light so that while not being as bright, the area that the light is coming from is much greater. If you've ever heard the advice to shoot video in front of a window, that's why. When the surface of the light is big, the shadows are soft. Most photo and video lighting accessories are expensive and designed to go with existing equipment, but almost every YouTuber has at some point encountered these cheap ones. They're 50 by 70 centimeters, they look like they could form a part of Batman's suit, and they come with an Edison globe mount built in. Now, depending on the exact package you buy, it'll normally include a small light stand like this, and a globe that is supposed to be super bright but is really just a novelty oversized globe. Some of them now include a globe that's adjustable in both color temperature and brightness, which would be perfect, but assuming that you don't get a suitable globe, what I've done is to use a 6-watt warm white globe. I underestimated how difficult that was to say. 6-watt warm white. Since the softbox sits just 2 feet above my head, I find that that's bright enough, and although you could go with a brighter globe if you wanted to, I would at least stick with warmer, yellowy temperatures and stay away from the cool white globes that look like daylight. For mounting it, I'd recommend having your reading chair near a shelf or cupboard that you can put the stand on top of like I have, but if that's not an option, then you could use the stand the way it's intended, extending it to above your head and aiming it over one shoulder. This seems like such a basic thing, but when you sit under a light that is not too bright and is the right color, and even your own body is not casting a shadow anywhere, it's just a nice, happy space to be in. You just don't want to move. I've even started reading books that I was a bit like, nah, on before, because I just like looking at words printed under that light. It's so nice. So those are the 3 things that have really helped to make this space conducive to language learning and just getting work done in general. I hope it's helped you. If you have questions, ask away. I'll do my best to answer them, and I should be back with regular videos soon, so make sure you're subscribed. I'll be testing the future of language learning in a video very soon, so I'll see you then. Bye.